tell every hypnotherapist I meet, go take a stand-up class.
Mm.
Go take an improv class. Take a good stage class. Mentor explained to me there's two kinds of laughter. People will laugh because they're engaged and they're coming in and they want to be a part of this. People laugh because they're uncomfortable and they want to get away from you and they
Mm.
don't know how else to respond. So his question to me was, what kind of laughs are you getting? If you're going through a really bad day, I'll give you two little secrets about it. Is one, you don't have to make it through the whole day. You just have to make it from pillow to pillow. Rarely do bad things happen when you're asleep. And sometimes you just have to look at a moment in a day and go, you know what? That moment's over.
Have you ever wondered how a simple choice can shape the entire course of your life? Welcome to Superstates, Practices of Transformation. Superstates explores the intersection of using trance states for personal growth. And in each episode, we talk to world-class experts, industry leaders, and revolutionary thinkers sharing the latest information, tools, along with their own personal stories to inspire you on your journey. In today's episode, I talk with Kevin Lepine. From performing at kids' birthday parties to becoming the longest running hypnosis headliner in Las Vegas, he shares what he's learned about growth and resilience and the power of the mind. Ready to discover how curiosity and courage can transform your life? Stay tuned for Lessons from a Vegas Hypnotist with Kevin Lepine. Welcome to Superstates. I'm here today with Kevin Lepine. Kevin, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. Kevin, I always like to get a start with my guests by having them share what it is that you do and how that makes an impact on people.
So I am fortunate enough to have the longest running hypnosis show in Vegas right now. I've been headlining out here for the last 14 years, and that's after my hypnosis career taken me literally all around the world to spread laughter and fun. Before that, I started off as a performer doing kids' birthday parties in Detroit. So I get to live my dreams. I get to use hypnosis to show people just how powerful their mind is, and I get to live my dream performing with it every night.
Yeah, I love that you started out as kind of a birthday magician, and
hmm
now you're the longest headlining show in Vegas doing
I did.
hypnosis.
I didn't even know I was going to be a birthday magician until I got the gig.
Uh-huh.
I so when I was 16, I got picked up by an entertainment company. This was in Detroit, and when I say I got picked up by an entertainment company, I mean they posted an audition on what used to be the internet before internet. There was a number you could call every
Mm.
week. It was the actors hotline for the Detroit area, and every major city had one. You would call in and you'd hear all the auditions, and there was this company that just said, they need performers. I'm like, well, I'm 16. I know everything in the world. I can be one of those. And after calling and talking to the guy, he has me meet him at his office, which confused me because it was a house. And when I got there, he did have a couple of people working there, and he had totally forgotten about me.
Mm.
And then he ended up having to come back to the office because he forgot a costume. So then he picked me up. I followed him along with him, and I started doing costume characters for them. That led into doing clown work 'cause I wanted to pick up more gigs at more kids' birthday parties. The clown work led to magic. And have you ever just done something and it just kind of worked?
Yeah.
I'm the most uncoordinated human being in the world. Yet a deck of cards made sense in my hand.
Yeah.
And so the magic started building. When I was 20, I started working with hypnotists, and they got me enrolled in a course for social workers, and it just grew and grew and grew and grew, all from an opportunity because I thought I wanted to be an actor.
Yeah. Sometimes it's those um simple choices, right? Like you just like, oh, I'm 16, I can do this,
Yeah.
and and here you are now.
And it just there was an opportunity to pursue something I was passionate about. I didn't know enough to know if I wanted to do it or not, but I just knew that there was an option. That, and after I did my first birthday party, I got paid $40, which was as much as I made in a week flipping pizzas at a Little Caesars.
Yeah,
This is brilliant.
yeah,
And,
nice.
people are like, "Well, aren't you embarrassed?" You're like in a big bird suit or a turtle suit for a kid's birthday party. I don't care. There's a mask. I can't even see me in it.
Yeah, those it blows my mind sometimes how popular those costumed birthday characters
Oh
are.
yeah, and it's funny. You also, what was interesting to me is you get to go into people's homes,
Hmm.
and the Detroit area's got a lot of different cultures. So I really got to learn and experience different cultures. I got to see how different communities did different parties and different events. I got to try a lot of amazing food.
Mm-hmm.
It's where I learned a few uh, of my food rules, and one of the things that I learned. So I'm like 17, 18 at this point. I'm doing a party, and it was all Mideastern food. I had never been exposed to this, and I'm in a buffet with with the heads of the party, and I realized the smartest thing I could do is look at one of them and go, "Hey, I have no idea what any of this is." And I said it sincerely, and they went, "Oh!" And they got excited because they started explaining what every type of food was. And
Yeah.
here, try this with this. Don't eat that, E- But I learned one of my favorite lessons to have learned was admit when you're ignorant about something. Very, very few people make fun of you for being ignorant about it if you want to learn.
Yeah. I know that was a hard lesson for me to learn. It took me a little bit beyond 17 to learn that one, but it's if you don't know something, just ask. Otherwise, you're not going to learn anything.
And we feel embarrassed to ask,
Mm.
especially the further into adulthood we get, because we feel, well, they're going to think I'm stupid for not having known this already.
Right.
Well, if you don't know, there's a reason you don't know.
Yeah.
Ask earnestly. It's amazing what you'll learn.
So, Kevin, I know you wrote a book. I can see it floating in the air behind
Yep.
you.
Yeah,
The deep
my wife made that for me. It was it's a poster version of the cover.
of your cover of your book, and in this book, I believe you're kind of sharing your life story through that.
Yes, very, very much so. It's called Deep Into My Eyes, From Victim to Vegas Headliner. It's available at deepintomyeyes.com, and of course through Amazon and Barnes and Noble. It's my journey. I talk a lot about the victimization that I suffered, the bullying that I suffered, and I had always wanted to tell the story, but it wasn't until I found the picture, and I know this isn't going to translate that well through webcams. So it's a picture of a bunch of fish all grouped up together to look like a giant shark to chase a shark away.
Yeah. Okay.
And as soon as I saw the picture, I'm like, that's my story. That's how I survived. I built a community around me. And once I built that community, I became safe.
Hmm.
And in that being safe, I was finally able to grow and flourish.
So, can you share a little bit of that journey with us? A little bit
Definitely.
more detail than that.
I'll share one of my favorite parts of it, only because kids are jerks. And this is a moment where they weren't.
Hmm.
So I had been severely bullied in school, um, to the point of being ready to commit suicide.
Hmm.
And the book talks a lot about how, thank God, I came to the realization that I didn't want to do that. But because of all the bullying and abuse, I had a very bad stuttering problem. I could not communicate at all. And when I was about 15 and a half, I finally found a group of friends. and they let me do this.
Mm.
The only way I could talk was to meter out the words. And a group of 15, 16-year-old kids who were nothing but just kids. They were just friends. It's not like this was a therapy group or anything like that. These were just people. And they gave me the space to do that. They gave me that permission and said, "Your voice is important. We want to hear what you have to say."
Mm.
And it in less than 6 months, the stutter was gone.
Wow. That's First of all, that's really amazing that those 15-year-olds had
It,
the
it's
had the
unbelievable.
capacity for that.
Yeah, it's miraculous.
Yeah.
When I look back on that, it's one of those moments, and that was another big decision I made when I was writing the book. I talk about a lot about the people who helped me, and
Hmm.
I name them and I thank them, and I talk about how my interaction with them helped me grow to where I am. But to all the people who tore me down, my decision was I would talk about a negative situation, but I wouldn't mention a negative person
Hmm.
because I felt that they didn't deserve that level of recognition. But the
Sure.
people who helped me do.
Yeah, that's a wonderful frame for that. So, what led you then to wanting to do hypnosis? What was your process there?
I was curious. I was really curious. And I saw some hypnosis shows and I got to meet some hypnotists and I got really, really interested in it. And now we're talking 95.
Hmm.
So understand the internet doesn't exist again in the way that we know it now.
Hmm.
So there wasn't a lot of information. Um, I read some books. Only one book actually made sense to me. And I managed to get enrolled in a course for social workers. And I hated hypnosis shows for a while. I didn't like them because every show that I saw that could influence me said, "I'm a jerk and I want to make you look like an idiot." And I didn't like that aspect of it. And I was trying to reframe that in the show and reframe it in the show. And I had an opportunity to move down to New Orleans to do my show down there for 6 months. And it was in New Orleans, I met a group of performers who all had this idea of be unique, be creative, or don't be on the stage.
Hmm.
And so I'm talking with them, and they went, "Well, what message do you want to get out there?" I said, "Well, what I want to say is, I have something really fun and interesting to share with you. And if you walk up on my stage, I'm going to make you look like a star and feel great." They went, "Okay, well, let's do that." I'm like, "Well, it's not done like that." They're like, "Well, it will be by tomorrow." and, and we started working, we started writing, and we started looking at all these different things. And because of that, the show flourished. My 6 months in New Orleans turned into 5 years. That was
Wow.
when I started touring colleges and really growing. And I had another moment that changed my show so much. And it changed my outlook of hypnosis so much. A mentor explained to me there's two kinds of laughter. People will laugh because they're engaged and they're coming in and they want to be a part of this. People laugh because they're uncomfortable and they want to get away from you and
Mm.
they don't know how else to respond. So his question to me was, what kind of laughs are you getting? Are you getting engaging laughs? Or are you getting disengaging laughs? And that really, really helped me come up with how I wanted to really portray everything.
Yeah, that's a great difference between those two kinds of laughter. Like, obviously, we want to engage people, and like
Yes.
even in a hypnotherapy kind of way, that's what we're trying to do is engage with people.
Well, all hypnosis is rapport. And if you don't build rapport and if you don't live up to that rapport, you're not going to have effective hypnosis. And I tell every hypnotherapist I meet, go take a stand-up class,
Mm.
go take an improv class,
Hmm.
take a good stage class, because maybe, excuse me, sorry, maybe you don't ever want to do shows, and that's fine. But as soon as you can be comfortable for 5, 10, 15 minutes, getting in front of a group of people at the Chamber of Commerce, at the Kiwanis Club, at the Lions Club, without feeling your face getting all flushed, without feeling yourself getting tense. As soon as you can do 10 or 15 minutes, and I don't like the word exposure. You'll hear this other, oh, well, this will be good exposure. Yeah, I grew up in Detroit. People die from exposure every winter. But being in front of the right group of people, a Chamber of Commerce, a Lions Club, where people have the money and are interested in your services, but don't understand what they are, that's the group you need to, and you don't want to use the word perform, because a lot of therapists feel, well, if I'm performing, that cheapens what I do. But I'll tell you this, you don't want to give them a lecture. You
Yeah.
lecture them for 5 minutes, their brain's going to turn off.
Hmm.
If you can find a way to engage them and make 5, 10 minutes on stage a really comfortable conversation between you and them, you're going to get clients out of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Improv has been one of the things that has made a huge impact in my life in general, not just as a hypnotherapist, but
Yes,
in
and it's a lot
learning
of fun.
how, exactly. Yes, and I love connecting with people and keeping the thing going.
Mhm.
So, how did you go from uh, being in New Orleans to getting the Vegas gig?
So I've got the weirdest bookend with New Orleans. I know when I got there and I know when I left. I got there the week after 9/11 and Katrina kicked me out.
Wow.
So that's my bookends for New Orleans.
Hmm.
I was there for a little over 4 years, 4.5 years. It was some of the craziest 10 years of my life, but it was great. It was a great experience. I will always love it down there. Katrina sent me back to Detroit. And while I was back in Detroit, I signed a really large corporate contract because an idea was presented to me and I was able to shift the idea around and I was able to create something. And what I was able to create was this idea. So, besides hypnosis, what are some other careers you're interested in?
Uh,
Okay.
performing arts,
What else?
um,
Or like,
writing,
okay, or what is something like family members are in? Because this is usually better if I can explain it
film,
with, okay,
theater.
perfect. So they're in film.
Hmm.
So there is the National Association of Broadcasters convention. All right. So this one's a bad example, but we'll use the NAB convention as an example because
Sure.
that's the big national one. But
Okay.
there's also state versions of that as well.
For
Like
sure.
all 50 states have some sort of broadcasters association. So you now own a tech company. Congratulations.
All right.
And your tech company provides tech for broadcasters.
Okay.
Now you want to be at NAB, but NAB, those booths can be $15,000, $20,000, right? So what I do is I call an organization like NAB and I go, hey, I'm going to give you my show for free. And in exchange, my sponsor wants a 10 by 10 booth. And they can always find another 10 by 10 square feet.
Sure. Yep.
And now they're getting a free show for their dinner banquet. I come back to you, so you want to be there, and the booth you wanted was going to be 10 grand, right? I'll give it to you for 8, and you're the sponsor of the entertainment. You save 20%.
Uh huh.
The corporation got a free show, and I made 8 grand.
Nice.
Everybody won on that deal.
Yeah.
And that's what I did for years. And well, that's what I did once. And then the company I did it for immediately made me an offer for a yearly contract and put me on payroll for the next 3.5 years.
Okay.
Um, because they went, there's 300 shows we want to do. If you do 12 of them a year, you will have made this big. And I ended up doing, like 20 plus shows a year.
Yeah.
But that taught me about big corporate events. It taught me about having to treat your business like it's business.
Hmm.
And this is all really important because doing that, I had the opportunity to move out to Vegas for 6 months because there was a big run of corporate events that I was going to do. And I always wanted to be in Vegas. But I also wanted to know, was I ready?
Hmm.
I mean, was I? Spoiler, no, not even close to ready. But 6 months turned into the last 14 years. And once again, I had an opportunity. I met the guys who had the show Hypnosis Unleashed, and Terry Stokes, who was part owner at the time. He let me do a 5-minute guest spot in his show, and then he invited me back, and I came back every day for a week. And he went, "Oh, you can really do this stuff." And I said, "Yeah." Now I had at this point, I was 35, so I had almost 20 years of experience performing. I had almost 15 years of solid experience just doing hypnosis.
Hmm.
And I became an intern for them. While I was doing all the corporate events, I would go to the show every night. I would seat people. I would assist on stage. I would take tickets. I would sweep the floor. I would set up. I would do anything. Because with Terry and Michael Johns there, and Michael Johns was the other owner, I got to learn. I got to learn every night. And eventually they went, "You're doing all this intern stuff. What do you want?" I went, "I want what you're not using. I want your dark night." And they gave me the opportunity.
Hmm.
And while they gave me that opportunity, now mind you, 6 months, I'm doing 5-minute spots in most of Terry's shows, just so that we can work out a routine. What makes this work? What makes this work? How do we tighten this? How do we tighten that? So that by the time I had that opportunity, I was ready. And then Terry retired from Vegas about a year after, and I got his spot in that. And then the Harmon Theater we were in was closing down, and Michael was ready to retire. He offered me the name if I wanted to carry it forward, and Michael's been a big brother to me
Hmm.
now for so long. I can't thank him enough for everything he's done for me. And I launched the show on my own in about 2012, and it's been amazing. But I have to say, what got me to Vegas was, one, the desire to be here. And unfortunately for performers who want to be on television, because I never understood this. I knew great magicians in Detroit. I knew great magicians in New Orleans, but they were never on The World's Greatest Magic. They were never on any of the TV specials. And they're never going to be unless they're in LA, or they're in Vegas, or they're where the producers of the show are.
Yeah.
Now, Penn and Teller's fool us. They've made a much bigger footprint because they need so many more magicians.
Yeah.
But and I'm not knocking the producers of these TV magic specials and stuff, but it's easier to work with somebody who's next door to you than across the country.
For sure.
And the one thing I knew was I could never be a Vegas headliner if I was living in Detroit.
Hmm.
So sometimes you just have to take the shot.
Yeah. So there's so much in there, but I think
Yeah.
my favorite thing about what you just shared with us is how you showed up kind of with that beginner mindset, with that I'm just going to be here, I'm going to sweep the floors, I'm just going to be around you guys, and I'm going to learn everything that I can, even though, like you said, you're a pretty seasoned performer at that point.
So what's one of your favorite things to work with in hypnotherapy?
I would say it's kind of helping people find inner confidence.
Okay, so inner confidence. Um, do you feel trained and ready to work with somebody who has a severe eating disorder and borderline personality?
No.
Beautiful. Fantastic answer. Just because you know how to do one thing and you know how to do it well doesn't mean we know how to do everything.
Yeah.
I knew how to do shows. I knew how to do the college essays. I knew how to do the corporate events. I didn't know what a Vegas audience expected. I
Mm.
didn't know what they wanted. I didn't know what pitfalls were right there in front of me. And here were two guys who knew it.
Yeah.
If you're willing to learn and if you're sincere and humble in your approach to wanting to learn, people will be glad to teach you.
Yeah.
I've been fortunate. I have got to meet great people. I've got to meet so many people that I looked up to. One thing that I love to say, especially here in Vegas, is heroes of mine became people. Those people became friends,
Hmm.
and it's amazing what you can learn if you're open to learning and growing.
Yeah.
And I watch so many people who they just want to be told they're right. And if all you want is to be told you're right, then fine, you're right. Good for you, but you're going to keep living in that same shit. Now, you might not agree with my advice. You might hate my show.
Hmm.
Great. Good. Figure out why you hate it. Figure out what you don't like about it so that you can do better in your own.
Mm.
I tell people all the time, never stab somebody in the back. You stab someone in the back, they're never going to forgive you. But put a target on their chest and tell them, say, hey, look, I'm not going to steal anything from you. But you do this one thing here, you do it really, really well. Whether that's promo, whether that's a look, whether that's an attitude, whether that's a way of telling jokes, whether it's a way of standing on stage. You do this thing well. What do I need to learn to be as good or better in my own way? And when I say in your own way, look at all the actors who have played Hamlet, but have done a fantastic job of making Hamlet their own. Or if Hamlet's too obscure, look at all the people who've played Batman and made Batman their own.
Hmm.
There's a lot of ways to perform something. There's a lot of ways to do therapy, but you also have to figure out what is it in my personality that's going to make this idea work well.
Yeah. So you've seen lots of different kinds of audiences. I'm sure a
Oh
lot of
yeah.
people have come to shows with certain expectations around what this is going to be like. What would you think? What would you say people come in kind of misunderstanding about a hypnosis show?
Everything and nothing. So the biggest misunderstanding that they have about hypnosis, and this affects both the performers and the therapists. When I say nobody knows what hypnosis is, I'm being very serious. To say no one knows anything about hypnosis, of course, is an exaggeration. But if I tell you that over 90% of the world doesn't understand what hypnosis is, I feel comfortable that I'm lowballing that. Now, the good and the bad. The bad is that means they come in with these weird attitudes of what it's going to be. But for the most part, their expectations are buried in the dirt. If I can explain very quickly and simply in the beginning of a show what it is, what it's going to be, and why we're all going to have fun together, the audience goes, well, if that's what it is, yeah, I want to do that. I've had many shows where, my stage manager will come back and go, hey, it's a small crowd tonight. And they all said none of them want to volunteer. Should we just cancel the show? I said, well, I haven't had a vote yet. And in those shows, we get all the volunteers. And, we have a great show because I can explain to them and I can frame it to them what it is. I try to explain this to hypnotists, especially performing hypnotists. Other hypnotists aren't your competition. The
Mm.
ignorance that hypnosis is valuable is your competition. If you support other hypnotists in your hometown, if you support other hypnotists in your hometown, more people will learn what hypnosis is, and then more people will want to experience hypnosis. But you have to build each other up for that to happen.
Yeah.
It's not gonna, I like the Rat Pack could playfully take jabs at each other, but they never tried to tear each other down. That's why they were the Rat Pack. You
Yeah.
look at the vaudevillians who really made it big. They made it big because they had a team around them. You look at the stand-up comic that came from your hometown, and you look at all the stand-up comics who told their family and friends, "Oh yeah, you need to check out this comic. They're great." That's one thing unfortunately lacking in the hypnosis world as well,
Mm.
is hypnotists don't go to hypnosis shows because they don't feel they need to support it. They don't tell their friends and family, "Oh, yeah, there's a hypnosis show in town, or you're going to Vegas. You need to go and see this show." We want to be this island unto ourselves. We want to think that we're special, we're unique. We should be the only hypnotist you know. Well, magic exploded here in Vegas because magicians supported other magicians and told friends and family, go support magic shows.
Hmm.
We need to do more of that. It's why I collect business cards. When people tell me that they're a hypnotherapist and they've come to the show, I'm like, great, add me on social media, give me your card. I get people asking me all the time because the way I do my show is really structured for people to understand what hypnosis can do to help. Well, I don't have 40 hours a week to help people. I'd way
Right.
rather refer that out.
Yeah, I totally am on board with you and have made it a point to meet everyone that I can possibly meet that is in the same industry here in my town as well, and have mentored some of them. Like I firmly believe that, like you say, the more that we can lift each other up, the more we can help more people.
And have you noticed in your hometown it's hard to get press sometimes?
Sure.
Well, it's hard for an individual to get press if five or six hypnotists are doing something together.
Mm.
That can be an interesting news story. Sometimes one isn't a story. Four, five, six can make for news and press.
That's an interesting observation there. Got me thinking a little bit for sure.
And I know I diverged on a couple of those things. So is there something I didn't answer in that? Because I know I tangent sometimes.
No, I think that answered the. I don't even remember what the last question was that I asked you, but I think you answered me pretty fully. Oh, it was what's the misunderstanding that people
Yeah.
have? Oops, my my screen is going crazy.
Yep.
Don't know what that
Yay,
was.
Riverside.
No, I think that was me.
Hey, the good news is it's only been a small part of it. So
Yeah,
hopefully
good.
there's some editing and none of you will have ever seen that anyway.
No one will know that this happened.
Perfect.
um, my so you said that you kind of refer people on a lot, but also, I mean, you're sharing that with them the power of hypnosis, like your audience
Hmm.
and the people that are experiencing your shows. What kind of experience do your audience members kind of come out of this with?
So I think it's important to, when you're writing a show, that you need to start at the end of your show. And your
Mm,
show ends when people are in the car driving home talking about it,
mm,
or when they're telling a friend of theirs who weren't at the show. As people, we like to download information to other people. We don't fully experience something until we explain it. So, with that piece of knowledge, what do you want them talking about in the car ride home? Start there. One of the main things that I want them to be talking about is why they should have gone up there, or why they know somebody they need to bring next time, and that person definitely needs to volunteer.
Uh-huh.
Because if you have that, if you have moments where people go, "Oh, I wish I'd have done that," or "Oh, I wish I could send my spouse or friend up there to do that," then you win. Then you're building friends. Harry Anderson in New Orleans told me, and I wish I've had the maturity to understand it when he was
Mm.
telling me these things. But one of the things Harry told me was, if after the show the audience wants to bring you home for dinner to meet their friends and family, you win. And there's a truth to that.
Yeah.
And so that's my main thing that I want to spread when I'm doing the hypnosis and everything else, is I want people to go, wow, that was fun. And you know who needs to do it next?
Hmm. What do you see as like what's making you excited about the future, Kevin?
God, so many things. Do you mean the future of hypnosis, or do you mean the future just in general?
Well, let's start with the future of hypnosis, since that's kind of what we've been focused on here.
The future of hypnosis is bleak. It really is. And I'm sorry to say this, but it's bleak for a couple of reasons. The one is the industry doesn't do any sort of self policing. And there have been so many things where hypnotists have been arrested, or, been shown using very bad judgment, very, very, very bad behavior. And like I said, some hypnotists have been arrested. And if we don't police the industry, well, first of all, the performing hypnotists, if they don't start policing what's happening in the high school shows, much like festivals disappeared for about 20 years, high school shows are going to disappear if performers
Mm.
keep exhibiting bad behavior at high school shows. Something bad happens at a high school, you don't just lose that high school, you lose that entire district, and that
Mm.
spreads fast. Um, so, as an industry, if we don't police it, if we don't learn how to promote people who are doing it well, promote people who are doing it positively, if we don't find ways to promote positive aspects of it, the negative people, which we all know that it's a very small group of people when I say people exhibiting that bad behavior. And everybody forgets the phrase, a few bad apples.
Hmm.
And I've watched people in our industry go, oh, well, it's just a few bad apples. Do you know what the rest of the phrase is?
They spoil the bunch.
Yes, a few bad apples spoil the bunch. And we have to start promoting the positive so that the bad apples can't spoil it.
Mm.
So I'm sorry if I sound a little negative there. I'm trying to be really positive, because the positive is there are a lot more opportunities out there. There's more ways to reach people. There's more ways to engage with people. There is so much more possibility now than there's ever been. Unfortunately, qualified people are usually too shy and humble to realize they're qualified, while insane jerks have only confidence.
Yeah.
So, if you want a great future in hypnosis, support good hypnotists. As far as the future in general, I'm always excited for tomorrow. Tomorrow is a great opportunity for wonderful things to happen. And for people who are going through tough times, people say, you just got to take it one day at a time, which sounds great unless you're the one going through the really, really bad day.
Sure.
So, you know what? If you're going through a really bad day, I'll give you two little secrets about it. Is one, you don't have to make it through the whole day. You just have to make it from pillow to pillow. Rarely do bad things happen when you're asleep. And sometimes you just have to look at a moment in a day and go, you know what? That moment's over. I'm
Hmm.
going to end that part of the day right now. I'm going to start over and I'm going to come at it fresh after taking a 2 or 3 minute break, and we'll do it again. The future's amazing because there's a community out there for whoever you are, for whatever you do. You can find positive people doing positive things in any community, and you can grow. And I think that's exciting.
Yeah, I love that. What would you like to be remembered for, Kevin?
Am I that old already? Um,
No, eventually,
you know,
eventually.
I hope I it's weird. It's not something I think about, because if I think about it, if I think about my career, then hopefully I'm thought of somebody who left the industry better than it was when I got there.
Yeah.
Hopefully I've done some things to elevate performers. Hopefully I've helped performers as much or more than I was helped. But then that doesn't really feel right. What really feels right is if I'm just remembered for being a great husband to the most amazing wife in the world.
Hmm.
That's great. If I'm remembered as being a great friend to my friends, I love the profession. I love the industry. But hopefully, if I'm remembered for anything, it's the quality of who I am.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, all that really matters is the connections that we make and the support that we can give.
Very much.
If somebody wants to learn more about you, what's the best way for them to do that?
So there's a lot of different ways. Deep into my eyes, you can get the book. That's still available. You can come see the show anytime, Hypnosis Unleashed, hypnosisunleashed.com. I'm at the Four Queens every Tuesday through Saturday at 9 p.m. Um, Also, if hypnotists want to learn a little bit more about the industry in general, I just did a project, and you can go over to the uh, Performing Summit's website. You'll have to look it up. I'm sorry, it's not on the tip of my tongue, but the
Hmm.
Hypnosis Performing Summit. Uh, I lost some friends in the last few years, and I was sick of losing stories. So I just did a 10-hour interview with Terry Stokes, talking
Wow.
about Terry's entire career. And
Wow.
it's available through the Performing Summit. It's $18 for all 15 episodes, because I broke them up into bite-sized pieces. And like a third of that just goes directly to the Performing Summit, because they're doing the things that I'm talking about trying to build up other performers and build up the industry.
Perfect. I got a chance to see Terry a couple of years ago at a Hypno Thoughts Live
Oh,
performance.
good.
Yeah, this was great. Kevin, what's the one insight you want the listeners to leave with today?
That if you can remain curious, if you can ask questions, if you can be humble in asking questions, you can learn almost anything, and nothing is unachievable.
Perfect. I've really enjoyed chatting with you today. It's been an excellent and enlightening conversation.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure.
I really enjoyed this conversation with Kevin. As we talked, I started to remember how staying humble enough to ask questions and really just showing up to life ready to learn can lead to incredible opportunities. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please hit the like button, follow the show, share it with somebody else who might be interested in Kevin's story. And for more transformational ideas, check out previous episodes. Until next time, stay curious, keep growing, and embrace your transformation.